Hello everyone, welcome to an episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I'm super excited because I want to start doing One Piece videos on the channel. I've been waiting for One Piece to release for a couple months now in the US. It finally released yesterday or 2 days ago at the time of making this video on December 2nd. A couple of my local game stores had some boxes, so I picked up 2 boxes. I didn't do a video on the unboxing just because I don't know. I like unboxing stuff on my own, and I don't have a ton of fun with unboxing videos just because. However, I do want to do some videos on some deck profiles that like just some starting out deck profiles and maybe give somebody who's brand new to like card games or doesn't understand maybe how to build like a basic deck, a jumping off point. But the first thing I wanted to do is kind of go over the One Piece TCG, not by rules. I'm going to link a video to True Champion Steven down in the comments below. I think he does a really good job at explaining the rules. So I won't let someone who's better than me try to do the same thing. So I'll just link you that. So definitely go check that out. But I wanted to give kind of 5 tips just based off someone who's played a good amount of card games, right? Like played Flesh and Blood a lot. Obviously, it's mainly a Flesh and Blood channel. Played card games like Digimon, Magic, a little bit of Dragon Ball, and then played some one-off games like Soul Forge and Genesis, stuff like that. So I've played enough card games, I think, to where I'm now at the point where I can give like basic deck building and just card game tips. Now, this is a brand new card game. So take these with a grain of salt, but I do think these will help anybody, especially people who are newer to the game, kind of things to look out for when you're building your first deck and when you're playing your first couple games. It's 5 tips total. And we'll get right into it. So hopefully this really helps you out. If it does, let me know in the comments below. Leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If not, completely fine. Go into our creator, do the same thing for them so we can, or like and comment their stuff so we can get more people having fun with card games. So yeah, the first one I wanted to go over in this game is just have fun and explore with the game. This is a brand new card game, at least in the US, right? You don't get a lot of opportunities to like just have fun with the game in that sense of like no one knows what the best deck's going to be. Like obviously there's some strong like decks already just basically from the APAC meta, right? Over in Japan, Thailand, like most of the APAC countries that already had access to this game have kind of shown what decks are working. However, one kind of caveat to that I want to give is in card games where there's a APAC, I'm just going to use APAC like general term of all those countries. There's an APAC meta and there's US meta. It's typically a little bit different, not a ton different, but a little bit different. You see a slot in Digimon, you see it in other card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, games where US meta typically is a little bit different. And in my opinion, US metas from most card games I've seen are a little bit more aggro based, whereas like in the APAC meta will be a lot like maybe like combo based or control based. That's just my opinion. So don't like if you want to take a deck from one of the websites like that worked or that won and just use that as a jumping off point, totally fine. Totally get it. It's something I did just to kind of get an idea of like what kind of cards people are playing, but definitely have fun with it. Try new cards, try cards no one else is using, right? Like really have fun with the game. That's like the most fun part about a card game or a TCG that just started is that you have this chance to explore and maybe find something or an interaction that no one else has found. The card pool is not huge right now, so it definitely allows you to, you know, just have fun and learn the game and go from there. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. The second tip is hand management. So now we're going to get into kind of like the mechanics of this game. I'm not going to go super in depth because that's not the point of this video, but it's just to give you an idea. So the way this game works is right, like you draw up to 5 cards. There's no maximum hand size, but everyone has the same hand size to start with. It's not like other card games like maybe My Hero Academia or Flesh and Blood where you draw up to your hand size after every offense or defensive turn depending on the game. This game you draw 1 card per turn on your turn, right? On your draw phase. So because of that, you have to be careful, and we'll get into another mechanic here that can make your hand even smaller, which is like defending or countering. Like you have to be really careful. You can it works similar to Dragon Ball if you've ever played that game, where you can quite frankly like screw yourself because you overblock when you don't really have to, or you play out all your cards similar to like Magic, and all of a sudden you're just drawing 1 card, and you have like a 1 card hand size. Or not hand size, but 1 card hand for 3 or 4 turns. You basically have to like eat damage or hope to God the opponent doesn't kill you. Be careful with your hand. really play at a good pace. There are effects in this game that allow you to draw cards, so it can use those. Those are nice, things of that nature. But overall, like, you have to watch your hand management because you only draw one card. It's definitely going to be a skill gap or something that people are going to have to take into account when they're playing out their games. So just keep that in mind. The third tip is counterplay, and this kind of goes into hand management. There are certain cards in the game that have counters, right? Or a counter thing on it. Basically, it means, like, so this card right here, it has a 1000 counter on it, which basically means if you discard it in the counter step, so the opponent will attack, they'll add however much Dawn they want, which is like the resource generation in this game. Let's say they attack with a 5000 power card. They put 1 Dawn on it for 6000, right? And they attack your hero, which all heroes in the game right now have 5000 power. So in order to defend that and stop it, you have to get your hero to a greater value than their 6000, because in this game, if the attacker is equal or greater to the defender in power, they win the battle. So you have to get to 7000, which basically means if they're attacking your 5000 power hero with a 6000 power card, you now have to defend for 7000, which basically means you have to pump up your hero by 2000. The only way to do that is through counters in the counter step. So they'll declare attack, they'll add Dawn onto it. Then you go into the block step or defense step, which is like any blockers that you have where you can redirect the attack. And then you go into the counter step, which means like the defender can now pump their card as much as they want. So, but in order to do that, I have to discard cards. So if you have 4 cards in your hand and you need to discard 2 cards to get to 7000, you now have a 2-card hand. Then let's say they just stop attacking for that turn. Then you draw up 1 card. Now you only have a 3-card hand for next turn. So you have to be very careful on how much you value countering an attack. It's works similar to Dragon Ball, in my opinion, where you need to you have to manage like maybe stopping the little attacks less so than like the big powerful ones. Like if someone's coming at you for 8000 Dawn, right? You have to decide, is it worth it for if you don't have there are event cards and like certain cards that can boost your hero in the counter step. However, let's just say those cards aren't available at the moment. Do you want to boost your hero by 4,000 by discarding 3-4 cards to stop an attack? Or do you just let that attack hit, right? And then if somebody is going at you for 5000 even, let's say they didn't add any Dawn onto it, they're just forcing your kind of your hand, so to speak. Maybe it's okay to expend 1 card to block that, because they're probably going to come at you see this 8 drop on the field, and with 8000 power, you're not going to be able to stop that. So you stop the little ones so you can let the big ones go through, right? So hopefully this kind of understands what I mean by counters. It's similar to hand management, where you can't just blow your load on one attack and defend or discard 3 cards to defend 1 big attack. You have to decide, like, is it worth it? Because when they attack your life, if they attack your life by attacking your character, your leader, not your character, your leader, then that 1 life goes to your hand. Sometimes that can be a good thing, right? Sometimes that can help you out, especially if you're low on your hand total at the moment. So just keep that in mind. There's also cards that don't have counters, and that's something else to keep in mind. Like in my law deck, like my Capone doesn't have counters. Just looking through here, right? Okiku, which is in my opinion, one of the most single powerful cards in the game, which allows you to rest one of your opponent's characters that costs 5 or less, which is pretty much like 80% of the cards. It doesn't have a counter, so you can't use it to defend with. So you have to be careful how many of those you put in your deck as well, because if you have, let's say you have a 50 card deck and you have 20 cards that don't counter, you now have 20 cards in your deck that don't block. And late game, that can really, really hurt you. So just keep in mind, there isn't like a right number yet. I personally have around maybe 8 cards in my deck that don't have counters. A lot of the event cards don't have counters personally. Most of the character cards do, but a lot of the event cards don't. So you have to be careful with how many cards in your deck do you have that don't have counters. So for counterplay, yeah, most of the event cards don't have counters. So for counterplay, make sure that focus on the little attacks if you're going to stop anything, and make sure you're not expending your whole hand to block unless you're truly just about to die. Then, so you can keep things going. The 4th tip is consistency is key. This goes back to hand management and goes back to the way the game goes. So In this game, you only draw one card, right? It's not like Digimon where you draw a card after every evolution. It's not like Flesh and Blood where you draw up to 4 cards or anything like that. It's similar to Magic where like you can have the consistency of your deck is really important, and the synergy of your deck is really important, because if you put in a huge 1-drop, right, like one of the biggest 1-drops in the game right now, and it's honestly what the meta is going to be defined over, is the kid card, the 8-drop kid card that basically reads it reads when it's rested, you have to attack that card, right? It's an 8-drop, it's really powerful, and it's going to probably define the meta early on. However, other than key cards like that are just game breaking, like you want to maybe avoid putting in like 1 or 2 of like this weird random like powerful card, or just 1 of 2 of any card in general. Personally, unless it's a really tech card, I would never put anything less than 3 in this deck. Because if you only put 1 or 2 in the deck, you might not ever see it, because you only draw 1 card per turn unless you have an effect that allows you to draw more cards. So you want your deck to be as consistent as possible so you can see these cards that you want to see. If it's a core part of your deck, it should have a 4 of, because you're allowed to have 4 of any card. And if it's a decently core card, it should have a 3 of. There's a couple key cards, and we'll get into it when I do my deck profiles, where I have a 2 of or something like that. I never have a 1 of anything. It just doesn't make sense. You lose consistency. So at the start, at least, until you get really good grasp on the game and really good grasp on tech pieces, try to have a 4 of every card in your deck, or a 3 of. The only exception is like the 8 drops or 9 drops, are like really, really powerful cards. 7 drops, maybe you have a 2 of those. But overall, try to be as consistent as possible. And the 5th one is keep calm in battle. Again, this goes back to counterplay, and I kind of actually talked about it in the counterplay step. The counterplay was point 3 for counterplay was mainly saying like watch how many cards you have in your deck that don't have counters. And then 5 is keep calm and bow, which is what I meant in point 3, where it's, don't expend your whole hand blocking if you don't have to, right? If it's really easy in this game, at least early on, if you haven't played a lot, to where someone's coming at you with this huge attack for 7,000-8,000, and you think you just need to block it. So you expend 3 cards from your hand to block it, and now you're stuck with no hand. And now they have all the tempo. And it's similar to Dragon Ball and other things, where once you get tempo, it's really hard to get it back if you lose it. And unlike Dragon Ball, or unlike Flesh and Blood, or unlike even other Magic, there's not a ton of like catch-up mechanic in the game right now. There's really not. There's not a ton of board wipe, if any. There's no board wipe. There's some removal. There's decent removal, but it's not like unbelievable. Once you get a board state, you really have to like focus and work really hard to get back. So just keep that in mind. Something as you're going forward. But overall, like all of these points, as useful as they are, the number one point is the most useful one. Have fun, explore the decks. Don't worry about doing a meta deck. If you want to do a meta deck, more power to you. It's fine, but really just try to have fun with the game. Try new builds. If people tell you like something's not like consistent, like, listen to them maybe, but also like be like, hey, I want to try it because it's fun. There's a couple cards in my decks that aren't like probably like A tier, S tier picks, but they're cards that I want to try out. And I think that's a big deal for this game. But yeah, if you like this, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Join the Discord down below. I'll add a One Piece section in there as well. We have a lot of good members in there, around 270 members in the Discord right now. I'll be doing more One Piece content for sure. It's going to be like a 50-50 between One Piece and Flesh and Blood. So as I play a game more, and I'm starting to play My Hero a lot too. But yeah, so if you're a One Piece fan and you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe. You'll get more One Piece content, I promise you. And yeah, hopefully I see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.